Hello everyone. I am Dion Darling, the VP of Brand Partnerships for the Architects newspaper, and I'd like to welcome you all to the Reviewing the Top 6 Revit Data Management Workflows using Ideate BIMLink live webinar. It is a CE Strong webinar series powered by the Architects newspaper. The webinar itself is sponsored by Ideate Software. So this program is registered with the AIA CES for continuing professional education. Questions related to specific materials, methods, and services will be addressed at the conclusion of this presentation. Now, this webinar is recorded and can be easily replayed when re-registered on the same webinar registration page. So please allow 7 business days to process certificate of participation and AIA credit reporting. Now, the learning objectives for today's webinar are manage Revit revision data with ease, create new Revit elements from information added to Microsoft Excel files, perform a comprehensive model health check, edit schedule data with ease and efficiency using Microsoft Excel, easily review Revit project standards to keep data consistent, create a quality takeoff report of your Revit project. Now, I want to introduce you to today's presenters. I have Sash, Kazeminejad, and Richard Taylor. Sash, earned his Master of Architecture from Montana State University and is a California registered architect with a LEED accredited profession. He has extensive experience in project management, BIM management, design for architectural firms in California, Montana, and Oregon, and leading classroom and online BIM training. He provides consulting, sales support, and training solutions to AECO customers around the globe. Now, Richard Taylor has more than 30 years of experience working for companies that develop architectural and engineering software solutions, such as Intergraph, Bentley, and Autodesk. He has over 20 years of Revit experience, and he was part of the original development of Revit while at Revit Technology Corporation. He worked for 12 years at Autodesk, where he presented, taught, and worked to improve features in Revit. So Richard holds both a Bachelor of Science in Architectural Studies and a Master of Architecture from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. As technical evangelist, Richard works with AECO clients worldwide, developing and consulting on BIM solutions. So how either one of them have any time to do this today, I don't know, but without further ado, I will turn this over to Sash and Richard.
Hey, thanks, Dion. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to share my screen here. Richard, when you, let's see, I'm going to just do this. Richard, let me know if you see my screen.
Perfect.
Yay, okay, perfect. Well, hi, everybody. Again, thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure to be here. As Dion mentioned, I'm Sash Kazeminejad, Customer Success Manager with Ideate. And of course, with me is my really good friend and awesome colleague, Richard Taylor. Waving at you. So we're going to go ahead and just get right into this so you can go about your day. So again, as mentioned before, we're here to show you some really cool tricks using Ideate BIMLink. While there's hundreds of things that we could show you, due to the amount of time that we have, we can only show you 6. So we picked, I think, the best 6 workflows that really can give anybody in any sort of industry that's using Revit some really good tooltips on how to use the BIMLink product. So we're going to focus on some data editing tasks and, of course, some revision, editing tasks and QTO type stuff. And of course, Richard's going to get into some of the really cool, like creating new elements and health check related stuff as well. Okay, so before we get into this, though, we're going to launch a poll here. And you can see right here, the first question is, what is your primary role at your company? We'd like to just have you just take a moment to answer that question. We're not going to share the results today, but it's always good to kind of know who the audience is. So go ahead and take a moment, fill that information out, and then, of course, we'll move on, with the presentation.
We should have a selection all around cool person.
Yeah, why not, right? I'm going to make something up today. I'm going to be a BIM manager. As a matter of fact, I can't even vote.
I would say you can't vote.
I know. I hate clicking on those boxes and nothing happens. And Sultan, whenever you want to, you can go ahead and close the poll out. All right. So I think that's the end of the poll. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. All right. So all about Ideate BIMLink. So what is Ideate BIMLink? Well, Ideate BIMLink allows users to get access to a huge amount of their Revit model data, so they can take that information and push it out to Microsoft Excel. And the goal being that you can review the information in Excel, you can take it to other sources, as Richard's going to talk about a little bit later on, like doing health checks, or of course, the big part is editing that information in Excel. And the reason why we do that is because Excel is awesome, and everybody here probably has some level of Excel experience. But we can take that information and pull it back in to the Revit model to update that information. So again, large access to data. We can edit parameter information really easily. Also, we can use it to get coordinate data for elements in the model, create a lot of new model and data content, which Richard's going to talk more about today. And then, of course, we do ship BIMLink with a lot of pre-configured links. So that way, if you're like, hey, I want to edit something today, but I don't know where to start, you can start with our pre-configured links to kind of help you get going on that, okay? Now, BIMLink, of course, doesn't help you create new project files. Of course, it can help you create new elements like views and sheets and family types. So, something to kind of keep in mind there. BIMLink does ship with over 300 pre-configured links to help you get started. And of course, we push data out using the XLS, XLSX, and also the XLSM macro format, right? So that's the macro enabled. So again, a lot of great stuff that BIMLink can do, but of course it doesn't create brand new Revit files or anything like that. So let's go ahead and move forward and just talk about a few things that we're going to be showing you today in terms of some of this data management. So in addition to, let's say, editing model data, that's going to be kind of the first basic demo I show you. In addition to that, we can also manage revisions. And for those of you that are actually managing revision information in Revit, it's kind of a real pain. And one of the downsides to managing revisions in Revit is most of the folks that we talk to have a need to basically list all of their sheets in a project in a schedule format, and also list each revision that exists on those sheets. And unfortunately, Revit doesn't do that. Basically, Revit only allows you to schedule the current revision. And actually, even accessing like the revision sequence information without any sort of special software, it's really not possible. And so we built some really cool workflows on managing that revision information. So I'm excited to show you some of this information as well. So again, we get access to a lot of the revision data that Revit itself will not show you. Also, this is kind of an interesting idea because the revision information that we've created uses a macro-enabled Excel template, where in this case, the quantity takeoff, we've actually built a special Excel template that ships with BIMLink that actually can help you kind of take your Revit model data and summarize it using pivot tables. And if you've used pivot tables before in Excel, you're very well aware of how powerful they are. And if you've not used pivot tables before, well, you'll see how powerful they are. I'm a huge fan of the pivot tables because we can take this kind of raw data dump and push it out to Excel and then summarize it using those pivot tables. And the whole goal of kind of what Richard and I are going to be showing you today is how creative you can get with access to your Revit model data. As I always like to tell people, we give you access to the data. What you choose to do with it beyond that is really up to you, okay? Again, whether it's editing, whether you want to summarize it, whether you want to take it, for health checks like using Power BI. I like to say the world is your oyster. You choose to do what you want to do with BIMLink. All right, so without further ado, we don't want to PowerPoint you to death. I'm just going to go ahead and just get into this demonstration right now. So I'm going to switch over to my Revit model. And I just have a really simple example here. It's not a fancy model. The brilliant thing is, all of our software works really well in small projects and very large projects. Again, we do a lot of performance testing and a lot of beta testing with our software to ensure that it works top notch. And so again, small or large, we have you covered. Okay, so let's just go ahead and just look at the BIMLink product right here. So I'll launch BIMLink. And the way BIMLink works in this case is any sort of pre-configured link that you use that we've built, or any sort of custom link that you built, once you kind of set them up and save them, then they get kind of saved here in this location right here. So the nice thing is they're easily accessible to you anytime you're in a project. And again, if you're in charge of dealing with standards for your office, or you're managing any sort of QA/QC, you can set these up in your Revit templates. And what's so great about that is when people start a brand new project using the Revit templates, these links are here ready to go. When I click on the new button over here, you'll kind of see the basic setup of BIMLink. And we, as I mentioned before, we ship BIMLink with over 300 pre-configured links. Think of these as kind of like schedules of information. And at any point in time, you can click on any one of these folders, like, for example, create elements, which Richard will get into a little bit more of today. And you can start with any one of our pre-configured links. Or if you're really inclined, you can go by category, pick any sort of category and build your own links if you want to, or use, again, one of our pre-configured links. It's totally up to you, okay? So, and then of course, if you have schedules in your project, you can start with one of your Revit schedules as well. So one of the things that I'm going to start off with is just a real simple example here. I believe it's one of our views in this case, where we can actually start with like one of our views link and actually manage the our interior elevation naming. Okay, so I could start with one of these, and if it doesn't quite meet my needs, I can edit or add parameter data. Let me just show you here, because I already have it kind of set up. It's this one here called Quality Control Interior Audit. I'm going to double click on this one. Okay, when I do that, you could see right here some of the basic information. And in this situation here, we're managing views. All right, and when we talk about views, we're really talking about any type of view, right? Floor plans, ceiling plans, structural plans, elevations, you name it, okay? And by default, this views would pull up all of those view types, right? However, I can go to a filter and say, hey, where the room elevation number is applicable, meaning that this is on a sheet, right? Because there's a number, and also where the family and type maybe contains the word interior. That way we can filter this long list of views by a certain parameter, so we're not getting 500 views and I'm trying to cherry pick and find just the interior elevation views. So we have all these powerful things that you can do. You can pre-sort the information before it goes out to Excel and so forth. But here's kind of where you add or remove parameter data that you want to dump out to Excel. So in this example here, I'm doing some family and type. I'm getting detail numbers, like the actual view name and room number. I mean, all this cool information that we can get access to. Anything in white is editable, and anything in gray is not. And it could be because it doesn't meet the criteria of this link, or Revit won't allow us to. It just all depends on the situation. And as you use BIMLink more, you'll totally get used to, all this of how this actually works. But one of the most fascinating ones that I'm excited to show you here today is this view orientation. And what's really fascinating about that is we can actually get the angle of the view elevation tag, and I'm going to use that as part of my renaming or numbering of my interior elevations. Now I'm going to hold this open here for a moment. I'm going to open up a example Excel file that I have. And in this Excel file, you can see it already has a name to it, and it has this tab, and there's nothing in here. And I have a real simple formula that I wrote earlier. And I want to show you how cool BIMLink is, because I'm going to actually write into this Excel file the latest information from my Revit model. And so what's cool about BIMLink is we never overwrite Excel files. We'll only overwrite tabs in there if the tab name matches the link name. And you're going to see that happen here in just a moment. So let's just assume I have this all set up exactly how I want it, and I want to edit my elevation name. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And here it is, and I'm going to hit export. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to export it into this file right here. And you're probably thinking, well, Sash, you're clicking on this. You're going to overwrite that whole Excel file. And the answer is no. If the tab name inside of there matches what's here, we'll overwrite just that one tab and preserve the rest of your data. We're very smart about this. And so right here, it says, hey, Sash, although it doesn't use my name, it just says, hey, this already exists in here. What do you want to do? Well, I want to overwrite just that one tab. And remember, when I showed you that one tab, there was no information in it. Now look what happens when I open the file. Boom, there you have it. So all of a sudden, I have all the latest and greatest data from my model while preserving this formulas tab. And so what I'm curious about is this view orientation. Yes, it's gray. It means I can't edit it, but I'm going to use this information here to generate north, east, south, and west. And of course, you don't have to use a formula for it, but I have a really simple formula right here that says if the information in column H2 and the angle is between 315 and 45, make it north. If it's between 45 and 135, make it east, and so forth. Again, just using simple Excel formulas. To save time, I'm just going to copy this to the clipboard. And then I'm going to come over here, and outside of the Revit model data, which is in column M, I'm just going to go ahead and paste that formula. And you see it reports north. And if I click up in here, it highlights that column. So all I'm going to do now is just fill this information down. And then now that it's filled down, we got northeast, southwest. What I want to now do is come over here and edit my, or create a naming string, shall we say, for my interior elevation. It's going to pull this in just a little bit to maybe give myself some more real estate. But watch this. I'm going to make this fast, but I just want to show you how cool Excel is. I'm going to make sure that all my names are uppercase. So I'm going to use equals the uppercase. And I'm going to say it's the uppercase of the elevation name, okay? And then I'm going to use concatenate. So concatenate means we're going to take one cell and maybe merge it together with another value. That's the ampersand right there. But I'm going to say this equals the uppercase of the office, and then with a space in between it, and then the room number. So it'll be office 232. And then maybe what I want to do is put another concatenate with a dash. And then finally, I'll put the north in here. Okay. And again, we'll have the video recording here if you want to re-review this, but this becomes office 232 north. And then all I need to do is fill this information down, and there's my elevation names. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if I want to rename my view names in Revit, which means, you know, coming back over here and renaming the views here, I have to be very, very careful because Revit does not allow duplicate names, right? So why is Excel so great? Well, if I want to paste those values in column J, I can use conditional formatting right here and highlight the duplicates. And what I'll have to do is systematically go through here and fix these names to make sure I don't have duplicates, okay? So again, you can see I have duplicate names here, and it's because somebody may have copied an elevation, and all of a sudden by copying an elevation and using the same room name and number, you end up with a duplicate name. In the interest of time, however, I'm just going to copy those values and paste them in the title on sheet column because Revit doesn't care what you call it. And if you have duplicates there, it just doesn't matter. Okay. So in this case, I'm renaming the title on sheet. Okay. I'll save these and close this down. And I'm just going to close BIMLink for a moment because I just want you to see kind of how some of these elevations are named currently. They're lowercase, they're terrible looking. You get the idea, right? And so now what I'm going to do is just come back to BIMLink and I'm going to import that information. So I'm going to bring in this interior views audit right here, the one that I just edited. I'm going to hit open. And what's beautiful about BIMLink is we just don't just hit OK and you don't know what happened. We give you great feedback. We're showing you in yellow everything that's changed. And if for some reason there was any errors and warnings, you can export that information out so that you can review those errors and warnings. And we also give you a cell-by-cell play as to what is about to change when you hit the import button. So again, this is awesome, right? Because a lot of times I've seen stuff where people do things with using other software or some of that visual programming stuff. We won't mention it by name. And I don't know what's going on when you hit import. And you're just like, okay, something happened. Here, I know exactly what's going to happen when I hit this import button. So watch this, import, and I'll close it out. And just like that, I renamed all of my interior elevation views. That was pretty cool, right? All right, so that's one example. And again, you can get really clever. Even though I'm using this for this purpose, I can rename all sorts of other things using Ideate BIMLink. Okay, next I'm going to show you another cool example here, and that's doing a construction quantity takeoff. And actually, I'm opening a Excel file here that ships with BIMLink as one of our sample files. And kind of like the formulas tab that I had in the other one, you could see in this example, though, I have a construction QTO and a summary, okay? And this summary uses pivot tables. And the reason why we chose this as an example is because this is the raw data that BIMLink uses to push out to Excel, right? And trying to make a QTO of this or make sense of it may be a little complicated. But if you use pivot tables, which is an Excel feature, you can take all that kind of raw data and summarize it and make it pretty, right? And as I mentioned before, again, we can overwrite this information here and preserve this information here. So in theory, on a weekly basis, I could keep writing to the same tab. And as long as I don't mess things up and muck things up and turn things around and all that, I could absolutely just have this thing refresh, right? So the cool thing about that is you can see here the sample file that we use. You can see we just use the out-of-the-box Revit. We just use a metric file as the example. And in turn, you can see the summary kind of shows the family information in metric, right? So
Sash,
yeah, go ahead.
For those tabs, are you limited to one category per tab?
No, that's the beautiful thing about it. See, the nice thing about that is I can actually stuff a whole bunch of tabs in here, which Richard, you'll be talking more about, right? When you do the health check stuff.
Exactly.
It's a great question. No, I'm not limited to just one tab or one category. If I wanted to do a whole bunch of things, I want to do doors, windows, roofs, mechanical equipment, whatever it is. In theory, I can push them out in separate tabs and kind of do all the editing at once if I really wanted to. Great question. Okay, so let's take this sample file right here, and we're going to overwrite it with the latest information from an actual model, which in this case is this one. So I'm going to come back to BIMLink, and you can see I have a QTO already right here. And if I go to new here, just to let you know, if I come up over here and click include files and subfolders, if I start at the very top over here, we're going to show you all the links that ship with BIMLink. And I can type in like QTO, and you can see there it is right there. And what's cool is this is a multi-category. So we're not limited to just doors or anything like that. We're actually looking at multiple categories as well. And we want to get instance-based data. That's basically what we're pushing out. You can see I have a warning triangle here, and that's because I already have it loaded up right here. So either I need to make it a unique name like that, or in this case, I'm going to hit cancel because I want to just show you this. So I'm going to double click on this, and it's going to take just a moment to bring up the data because we're bringing up data for multiple categories. But as you can see here, the information that is basically showing right here is in alignment with the information that's in that Excel file, and it's in alignment with the pivot table. So one thing to keep in mind is if I want to add any additional parameter data, whether it's built-in Revit parameters like what you see here, or project parameters or family parameters, whatever I add here, if you need that to be summarized like in that out-of-the-box pivot table, you need to go back and edit the pivot table afterwards to accommodate for those new columns. So just something to keep in mind. But because this is a multi-category, when I go to categories over here, I can also pick and choose which categories of info I want to show down over here. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. Multi-category is cool because I can do some filtering of information here. And in addition to that, I can say, hey, I can also filter out certain phases or show all phases. Again, BIMLink gives you access to a lot of your model data. Something to keep in mind. We're not showing you just stuff that you see in the properties palette and in a schedule. We're showing you things that you don't have access to without software like ours, right? All this great stuff like coordinate information and host information. That's pretty cool because like I can schedule all my doors and what walls they're hosted in, and I can compare fire ratings between my walls and my doors to see if I have any sort of conflicts. Like we can do all of that using this amazing product. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, and I'm going to hit export, and I'm going to export it again into that existing file. And it's going to say, hey, I'm going to overwrite that worksheet. Are you sure? Absolutely. And you may recall when I showed you that sample file, all the samples that we use in there came from a metric file. So this is going to take just a moment because we're exporting out 4,302 rows of data and all their info. But the moment that gets exported and I hit open file, watch the pivot table. There it is. There's my summary. Just like that, we have new data in here and the pivot table updates all that information, okay? And again, if a week later we added more content, I can just rewrite to this tab and the summary will be updated. So this is very, very helpful information. Okay, I have one more to show you before I pass the torch to Richard, but I want to show you revisions, okay? Now, revisions are interesting in Revit because, again, I don't have a way to schedule all my sheets and each of the revisions on the sheet. Revit will only show you the most current revision. And you can actually see here, this is actually a perfect example because I still have a sheet. You can only get some basic information in here, but we cannot schedule each of the revisions. However, in BIMLink, if I go to new over here, we've actually have a whole revision management folder. This will list all of the revisions sequences that are in my project. This will actually show you a list of all your sheets and all of your revisions on your sheet. And we can use these two to update this macro enabled template. Okay. Now I'm going to open that template because this thing is really cool. All right. Hey, it says Architect's Newspaper. I must have prepared for this, right? All right. So in this example here, this is going to be, there's a macro in here that runs and does some amazing voodoo and somehow generates an amazing sheet list and all the revisions on there. It's pretty wild. But the cool thing is, this is what I'm going to end up making a schedule out of. And what we do is we list all of the revisions in your project and then all the revisions on the sheet. Okay. And with all of that and maybe a little bit of work under a setup tab, it's going to generate this sheet list. Okay. You got to watch this. This is really cool. Okay. So before I do that, one of the things that you've probably struggled with in Revit is saying, hey, you know, I'm going to issue out a drawing set. So you come out here, you go to revisions on sheet, you hit edit, and you have to, you know, click these to turn these on. That's if you don't have a revision cloud or something yet on the sheet. Okay. And then you're like, well, Sash, why don't you just select all those sheets and just hit the edit revisions button? And it just disappears on us. I have no idea why we can't bulk select sheets still to this day and just do a simple task like that. It's really annoying, right? So this is a tiny project. Imagine if you have hundreds of these sheets. You have to literally go one by one and do this, okay? And then you found out you made a mistake and you got to like uncheck one of them for each sheet. You get to go back and do that all over. Well, in BIMLink, I have a edit revisions on each sheet. And let me show you this to start with. What's great about this is here are all my sheets, and those are those things that I just checked, and they're all right here. And what's so cool is I can hit OK and hit export, and I can save this right here. And let's just say for demonstration purposes, we're going to issue out these sets. So all I need to do is say, yeah, we're issuing out for the cover sheet, this, you know, schematic design, design development, you know, I'm doing some of this, right? Fantastic. And then maybe for some of these other ones, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, you get the idea here. I can literally do true false over here and just, you know, fill this information down, right? Got to do that the right way. Okay, so I have the power to do this. And then again, now that I turn these revision things on in my sheets, I just come back over here and go to import. And then all I need to do is just pick that edit, you know, the revision information. And here you go, right? So just like that, I'm turning this stuff on. Again, beautiful feedback, right? I could see exactly what's changing. And I can look at cell by cell to see what's changed and what hasn't changed. And when I go to import, and if I just close this for a moment, if I click on any one of these sheets now and look at what's turned on, you can see they're turned on. I don't have to actually go to the sheet to see it. I can just click on it and go to the properties palette, right? But they're all turned on, okay? Oh, I didn't do it for these detail sheets. That's why you're not seeing those on. Okay, I didn't do them for everyone. I just did a block of sheets. Okay, that's awesome. How do I get that DIR thing to update? All right, here we go. This is the cool part. I'm going to take the revisions, and what this is a list of all of the revisions and the sequences that are in my project. So right now I have, you know, 12 of these things. Okay, I'm going to take all of this, and notice there's no revision number, and the reason why is I'm using revision per sheet, not revision per project. Because it's revision per sheet, you're not going to get a revision number because revision 1 could vary on multiple sheets and on multiple dates. Okay. If we were doing a revision per project, then we would have a revision number that is somewhat in alignment with the sequence number. But again, we're giving you access to this data. Revit does not really give you info like this. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to export it. And I'm going to export it in that macro template. Okay. We're just about done here. So I'm going to select that and hit save. And again, I'm going to overwrite that tab in that template. And instead of opening, I'm going to hit done. And then I'm going to take this revision on sheet. This one's very similar to the one that I just edited where I put the checkboxes in, but this is a title block based, but we're getting the scale information. That's the reason why I did that. So we want to get the sheet scale and all of that. I'm going to take this info and export that to the same macro template. Okay. And then I'm going to overwrite it. Okay. Pay attention here because your mind's going to be blown because I'm still amazed by this every day when I click this button. Watch this. Okay, enable content. Boom, there is your sheet list and all the revisions on your sheet. And again, if I make changes, I add, I do a new sheet issuance, I just need to update this. And if I do a new sheet issuance and add more revisions, then I can just update these two tabs on another date. And the last part, the bonus, takes just a moment here, is take a look at this. We set a print area automatically based on the length of this. Check this out. As a bonus, how do I get this back into my Revit model, right? Because I have this in Excel. How do I do that? Well, here's your bonus. I'm going to come over here. It's going to create a new sheet. All right, there's your sheet. Let me just go ahead and close this one out just so we can get the full effect here. All right, Ideate Sticky allows you to live link your Excel, PDF, and Word files as a live link using, what do you call them? Local Pass and also BIM 360 or Autodesk Construction Cloud. If you have those files up there, we can actually live link to these files. So I'm going to create a sticky here, and I'm just going to go to my presentation folder here. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in that DIR. Okay, that thing that I just edited. And what's great about this is we show you all the print regions or special named regions and all that. But what I'm interested in is this DIR tab and bring it in that print area, and you see it right there. Take a look at this. Okay, it's going to convert it. In this case, I'm using image, so I can do absolute, relative, and BIM 360. And if I want to set auto update, I can also enable that as well. And there you have it. There's my schedule, just like that. It's so beautiful, and it's got the latest and greatest information from my Revit model. Okay. So that's all I have. Richard, I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share, and I'm going to pass it on to you.
Excellent. So you tell me if you can see this.
Absolutely.
Okay. Also, there was a question that came in about the revisions, and I thought that was probably good to, while people are thinking about it. One of the individuals asked, well, how do you request it? So I typed in, I don't know if everyone could see it, but if you are an Ideate BIMLink customer, you can send an email to support@ideatesoftware.com to request that template. And we have some a Revit file. So it's a complete data set, basically. Anything you wanted to add to that?
No,
Sash?
that's perfect. Yep, that's absolutely perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, Sash did 3 workflows, and we said that this is the top 6. So I wanted to also do 3 workflows here with Ideate BIMLink. And, he referenced multiple times creating new elements, new types and instances. So I'd like to do that, showing some, creating some new sheets with title blocks within Revit. And then our project standards is another folder that we have under the browse and that over 300 library links that we include. And so I'm going to show you some project standards. And one of them I think that's probably most used is the ability to rename types, whether it's, basically any type of type. But in this case, I'll do some family renaming. And then finally, I'll end up on some health checks, very similar to what Sash was showing with the QTO. We also include an Excel file that's all set up for health checks, where you can export multiple link definitions into this Excel file, and it's going to update the pivot tables, just like the pivot table updated within the QTO. And of course, so much more along the way. So let's go ahead and let's switch over to Revit. And by the way, Sash didn't mention it, but today I'm using Revit 2022. But we have our latest updates for all of our solutions are on the last 4 releases of Revit. So that's Revit 2019, 20, 21, and 22. We're working, of course, on the next release of Revit. But that doesn't mean that we're just limited to those 4. We also have versions that go back much further. In the case of Ideate BIMLink, I think we're going back to 2012 and so forth. So if you're still having projects on those older versions, we have a solution that will fit your needs. It's just that our latest releases, the latest updates and stuff are only available on the last 4 releases of Revit. So what I'm going to do here is move this over to the second screen here. And just like you saw with Sash, I'm going to go over here and select on Ideate BIMLink. And as he mentioned, with Ideate BIMLink, I've got this link, which is Sheets Create New. And I did this basically by selecting New.
Hey, Richard.
Right? Yes.
Are you still in your demo slide, or am I seeing something?
Oh.
Unless I'm wrong. What's on my screen, I just see the demonstration slide.
Is that different?
Check your screen share again. I could be wrong. I don't know if you're picking the wrong screen.
I may be. So I'm going to stop the share. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
It should have been screen number 1. Oh, you know what? I think what happened is instead of the screen itself, I actually was sharing just the program by mistake.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, so do you see? Hopefully you'll see Revit.
Yes.
So thanks for letting me know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I was just sharing PowerPoint, so that's what happened. All right, so let's go over this again. I've got this link definition, Sheets Create New. So when I select on that and I look at the properties here, you can see that the properties are basically coming again from that definition. So I've got the title blocks, the sheet number, the sheet name, whether it appears in the sheet list, and who it was created by. And I was able to do that if I cancel that and select New here, go under the Create Elements, and this is what Sash was showing, basically all of these create links, right? And on each one, if you select on it, it will actually give you a description. In this case, it's like creating new, place legends on specific sheets, right? So if you go down to the Sheets Create New, it says create new sheets. For placeholder sheets, leave the title block field empty, otherwise specify a particular title block. So it's always going to give you a nice description there. So I'm going to just for right now, switch over and just show you what that Excel file looks like. So in the background, I have this Excel file. And what I've done is I have a number of title blocks. This is the in column H. These are the active title blocks that I have loaded within my project. And so I want to use one of those loaded title blocks, and I want to create a sheet number and a sheet name and whether it appears in the sheet list. The difference between just exporting this information out from Revit and then importing is that I've actually, under the Revit ID, I've selected or filled in new. So I'm basically signaling to Ideate BIMLink that I'm going to create a new element because there are no sheets within this project. Actually, I take that back. There's a few sheets within the project. If you look over here, you'll see that I only have a cover sheet, right? That's all I have right here in my project browser. And in fact, what I'm going to do, and Sash, tell me if you can still see the screen because I moved the the controls over to the second screen.
Yeah,
so
you're fine.
Make sure that didn't impact anything.
No, you're good.
Okay, thank you. So here is a sheet list. And so right now I have all these sheets. There's the cover sheet, but what I'm doing is I'm showing both placeholder sheets as well as actual sheets, right? So what I want to do is hide over here with my filter the placeholder sheets. So you can see that now this matches the project browser. I have a cover sheet. I have listed a cover sheet here. So the next part of the process is I'm going to now import that Excel file that I showed you earlier. So we're going to come back to BIMLink, right? I've already got that link set up, that Sheets Create New. And so as Sash was showing you, you can export, but in this case, I'm just going to import the data. So here's that Sheets Create New. I'm going to select Open to import the information. And just as Sash was showing, it's going to give me an overview of what's going to be created or changed before it actually does creates those elements. So it gives me a chance to review the information. So you see here down below, new element created. Just as what Sash was showing in yellow, it's telling me that I've got these title blocks, the sheet number and the sheet name that have been updated, but nothing has been created yet, right? So if I say that this is great, I love it, I'm going to hit the import. And then in the background, you see that the sheet list is automatically filled out with all of the new sheet information. You'll see the project browser has been filled out. Let's close this here and I'll scroll down and you see now all the sheets have been created. Now you can also create views on those sheets, and there's a number of different elements that you can create. So what I want to do is just highlight over here. If I go over to my Chrome browser, we have done a lot of work at Ideate Software to create very comprehensive online help. And so you'll see under our online help for Ideate BIMLink, we have a number of how-to topics, right? How to create new types, how to manage project standards, how to set up projects. Under how to create new elements, you can see there's create new sheets, unplaced rooms, spaces, custom families, areas, schedule keys, revisions that Sash was showing you. Also, I think this is very nice if you say, set up projects with Ideate BIMLink. It will go through and basically show you how you can actually create new levels, views, and sheets and place those views onto sheets. And we have a video that highlights that. It's about a 5-minute video. So I just wanted to show you that you can go to our Ideate Software website and get lots of information on how to do this type of workflow in the case of creating new elements. So let's switch back over here to Revit. Okay, next I'd like to talk about project standards. And with that, I thought I'd give some love to our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing people that may be in the audience, even though this is the Architect's newspaper. But I switched over here to just a sample project for MEP, right? And so if I come down here, maybe my task at hand is to rename this mechanical equipment family with a new CSI division for 15. So I want to put a 15 in front of all of these pieces of mechanical equipment. And of course, I can rename each of those, individually by right-clicking and saying rename, but that's, just a very time-intensive process. So over here under Ideate Software, I'm going to go to Ideate BIMLink again. All right. And in this case, I'm going to show you how we could create, there's no link definitions. It's brand new. There's nothing here. So I'm going to say new. And here I'm going to go to my project standards. And again, there are many project standards that you see that we can specify for view types, for view templates, for title blocks. And as I said, one that's, I think, quite useful is rename types. Okay, so I'm going to select on rename types and select next. And as Sash was showing you, you have the ability to look at all of the categories. But in this case, I'm going to say uncheck all, right? And I'm going to go search for just mechanical equipment. So basically, I'm filtering it only on the mechanical equipment category. And so that's what I want. And I say, that's great. So now, if I clear that selection and say hide unchecked, I've just got mechanical equipment. And so what I'm going to be doing is selecting, exporting the ID, the category, the family name, the type name, and the type mark. And as Sash showed you, I could do other project parameters, for instance. I could do system parameters or family parameters. But in this case, I'm just going to keep it simple. Select done, export out to my project standards, rename types, and select save. And you saw the process many times with Sash. But in this case now, it's going to bring up this tab, which is project standards, rename types. And I'm going to do a very similar thing that Sash did, whereas I'm going to select a formula. And I also want this to be uppercase. So I want to say upper. And I'm going to add the division in this case, which is 15 dash, and then an ampersand, I'm going to add that to C2. And so it makes it all uppercase and updates the division. Now, again, this is kind of a scratch area in the sense of a scratch pad in column F. What I want to do is copy this information over to the values, which is the sort of the live. In column C is the live data, the family name, right? So I can also update the type mark as well. So if I want this to be, 100, and let's say I just want to do it sequentially, I'll do 101. And a nice thing is in Excel, if I do a sequence like that and then just drag it down, it's going to automatically renumber those. I'll hit save, and I'll come back over here to Revit. And I'm going to take that project standards, rename types, and watch over here in the project browser. I'm going to import that information from project standards, rename types. And so again, it's going to give me a preview of the elements or the data that has been changed. And so when we talked about like if there's something like an error or a warning, this could be an error, could be that it was locked for work sharing. We do of course, if something's not able to be edited or changed, it's going to tell you that. Or maybe it's a read-only value. You tried to change the area of a room or a space. But in this case, everything looks good. It's got all the information. It's got the type values. Notice the project browser, again, just like what Sash was showing you. It hasn't changed yet until I decide that it's okay. And when I hit import, now all of the mechanical equipment has been updated with the new data with division 15. And if I select on, let's say, one of those pieces of mechanical equipment like this cooling tower, right? And you can see that now if I look at the actual type information, I did update the type mark. So if we come over here, that you'll see the type mark is now updated to 101, and of course the family. So all of this information, whether it's type data or whether it's instance data, can be edited within Ideate BIMLink. We do separate that onto two separate tabs within the Excel file, but you could have, like in this case with the Excel or the what I exported, that was type data, the actual name, but you could have instance data on a separate tab as well. So just to give you an example of a project standards. Now I'd like to switch back to the architectural model again and talk about that health check. So if I come over here again to Ideate BIMLink, and you'll see that I already have one that I defined called HC Ideate. We're going to go to the properties, and it is a multi-category link. And right now, the categories that it's looking at is only casework and doors. So it's pretty limited. So what I'd like to do is kind of do a shell of the building, if you will. So I'm going to do floors category. I would like to do, let's say, windows and maybe roofs, and we'll do walls. So I'm just selecting each one of these, searching for the category. Once I have those, right, then I can say hide the unchecked and only show me what I'm exporting. So right now it says, well, you're going to export doors, floors, roofs, walls, and windows. Also, like Sash showed, you can filter this. If I only wanted to filter it on a phase, I could have a condition, and you'll see we have many more conditions than what's available within Revit. So that I could say that it contains new. Also, I can set up a condition that is an or value as well as an and value. So if I have multiple properties filters and I tick this elements must pass all filters, it's an and condition. If I untick this, it's an or condition. So in this case, I like all that, what I selected. And now I can export that. But before I do that, I'm actually going to go and say new. And I'm going to create a new health check again from our folder. There's multiple health check link definitions. I'm going to do one for views and just sort of select the defaults again from our link definition and say done. So the first thing I'm going to do is export this to an Excel file called Ideate Health Check. This is delivered with Ideate BIMLink, just the same way the QTO was delivered. And I'm going to go ahead and save. And you saw, like with Sash, that it asked me to overwrite the existing worksheet. So I'm going to do that. Before opening up the file, I'm also going to export the view information. So once that's processed here in a second, I'm going to say done and go over here and export to the views. So let's say Ideate Health Check, save, overwrite that existing worksheet. And once that is complete, then I've got two of those tabs that I've updated with HC Ideate, HC Views. I'm going to look at the data. So I open up that file. And sure enough, there is a summary. And you saw that very quickly it updated there. The summary is we told it only to do doors, floors, roofs, walls, and windows. So we have 67 doors, 7 floors, 23 roofs, 318 walls, and 5 windows. So again, this is a pivot table updating that information. The same way the view summary updated with, again, information about whether there are 51 architectural views, 309 coordination views, 47 electrical, and so forth. And if I highlight each one of these, this is data that I had exported previously. There's an update for work set and phasing, for links or imports that I may have in this project. Do I have any in-place families? I do have 11 roofs and 7 walls. Do I have any generic model usage or model line usage as an example? And if I scroll over to the right, here is the data coming from Ideate BIMLink, the raw data. So you can see that I did that, HC Ideate as well as HC Views. And I can, very similar to what Sash showed, I can update the information in the views as well and be able to import that information. But for right now, for time purposes, I'm going to switch back over here to Revit. And I want to show you one last thing here, just to, since neither one of us, neither Sash or myself have highlighted this yet, I'm going to select new, and I'm going to go over here to by schedule. And in this, I have a room schedule. So I click on the room schedule. It's going to take the data that was defined in that room schedule within this Revit project. And I can then decide, let's see, that looks like it's off.
Hey, Richard.
Yes.
Apologies for the interruption. We'll probably do Q&A in just a few minutes.
Yes, I'm about 3 minutes over, I know.
No worries, no worries. Thanks, buddy.
So I'm going to remove that ceiling finish, right? And I just wanted to show you that this data is live. You don't actually have to send it to Excel. So if I want to send this to be, Richard's office right here, I can actually make that change right here within the dialog and update the information. So that has now been changed in this Revit project. So just to show you that preview dialog is live data that can be changed. So now let's switch back over here to our presentation. And with that health check that I showed you, you can go a little bit further. You can actually export this information, multiple tabs to the health check folder. You can do, using our Ideate automation, you may want to be able to select multiple models. So our Ideate automation is set up to allow you to run a health check, as an example, maybe at 2 a.m. in the morning. And you could do it not only on one model, but maybe on 5 models. And not only is it extracting information from BIMLink, it's extracting information from Ideate Explorer, which is allowing you to then look at that information in Power BI, such as how many warnings do you have in that project, right? What are your top 10 warnings across those multiple files? And what are your warnings over time? So all of the information that I showed with the health check folder, but it also adds warnings information as well as the file size. And so that's, basically it's automating things that you can do in Ideate BIMLink as well as Ideate Explorer, but it's allowing you to do that with multiple models that may be on BIM 360 or the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And again, allowing you to do that when you would like to schedule it. Okay, Now I think we'd like to set up our second poll here. And so based on the information that you saw today, just, are you interested in learning more about Ideate software? Again, we were focusing today primarily on Ideate BIMLink, although we did, again, Sash showed a little bit about Ideate Sticky. We also talked a little bit about Ideate Automation and Ideate Explorer. So we have a number of different solutions from Ideate software.
Absolutely. Like even with automation, I had shown that workflow of taking the revisions and revisions on sheet and taking those two and pushing that info out to that Excel template. Now imagine queuing up 10 projects and having those automatically updated, let's say nightly. So when you come in the next morning, the information is already updated. And if you sticky it back in, like that quick demo I showed you, that table of sheets and revisions would be theoretically updated, thanks to automation and that whole process. So, okay. Well, I think we have just a few minutes here for questions. I think the second poll question came up already.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and, we'll open up to the audience here. So feel free to type in your questions. Use the questions and answer panel rather than the chat panel. But if you accidentally use the chat panel, that's totally okay. But we'll hang out here for about, I think, 4 minutes. We're allowed about a minute over, just to answer any questions.
Well, I think Dion was going to come back, but there was the question about, again, if you are interested in the DIR template that Sash showed you, and you are an Ideate BIMLink customer, just send an email to support@ideatesoftware.com, and we'll make sure that we get you that data set.
Absolutely. And hey, Richard, one thing is, do you want to talk real quickly about just the data key thing real quick with BIMLink?
Yeah, you have a couple of minutes, guys, before I'm going to come on and
Yeah,
kick you off.
sure.
You got like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
So very quickly, as you saw, most of, or actually all the examples that Sash and I showed you, if I switch over here to one of the examples, let's say the project standards, I'm going to go over here to project standards. There's this first column, column A, which is the Revit element ID. That is really how we're sequencing the data by default. However, you can have a new data key. It needs to be unique. So it could be a combination of the family name and type name. It could be the type mark, like in this case, because these are now all unique. So I could then transfer data from one project to another based on, like in this case, let's say the type mark, which is a unique ID, rather than the Revit element ID, which would not be the same, obviously, for two different projects. So yeah, great question. I don't think I see any other questions. So why don't we go ahead, Dion, and see, I know you've got a couple wrap-up slides.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to really thank you, Richard and Sash, for a fantastic webinar full of information. It looks like, I believe Sash primarily answered all the questions that were in the chat. So I just want to thank you both very much, and thank everyone for attending the live webinar, reviewing the top 6 Revit data management workflows using Ideate BIMLink. I hope that you can walk away with some new knowledge for your practice. And this is a CE Strong webinar series, again, powered by the Architects newspaper. And the presentation was sponsored by Ideate Software. So just wanted to reiterate one more time, because a lot of times everybody asks us that. Yes, this webinar is recorded and can easily be replayed using the same registration link. Again, please allow 7 business days for us to process your certificate of participation and AIA credit for this presentation. But we hope to see you again very soon at the next webinar that the Architects newspaper presents. And I know Ideate will be back in late July, so be looking for that with another webinar. So thank you both so very much. I hope everyone has a wonderful day today.
Yeah, enjoy your day.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
It's raining here in
Thank
Boston,
you.
but spring is on its way.
Thank you. Thank you, Sash. Bye, Richard.
Take
Bye.
care.
Bye, everybody.